The number one qualification for doing any of this shit at all is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. That is why you make either the most money or you make the thing. It's because you also need to sit in the bad consistently and be okay with that. I think that's missed a lot. And I mean the bad from anywhere of forecasting and knowing you're going to take people's rent away and you just got to do it. Somebody's underperforming and it's hurting the other team members, but you love them, you got to do it. Thinking you are worth this thing and then somebody telling you that you are not, you got to do it. Asking somebody for something and then them not responding for weeks, you have to sit with it. It is the hardest part of the thing, and is why the payoff is highest for the person that needs to sit with it. Get comfortable in being uncomfortable. It's the definition of being a leader.
Welcome back to the Badass Women in Business podcast, where we love to highlight and emphasize amazing women doing badass things in the world. And we are so excited today to have Kate Wolff with us, who just told us as a self-proclaimed serial entrepreneur. Kate, welcome to the show. And please tell our audience who you are and about your story.
Hi, y'all. I'm Kate Wolff, she, her. Wonderful to be here. Love the podcast. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Yeah, serial entrepreneur. It sounds like a heavy thing. It is. It's been a wild ride. These a little bit over 5.5 years now. When I started to start things on my own, and it really felt like Pringles, like once you pop the fun, don't stop vibes. But it's been an amazing experience. I was a marketer by trade. I had worked at pretty much every major holding company under the sun, those Omnicoms, Publicis, WPP, and then the upper echelon of traditional marketing, real creative spaces, wonderful career. And at some point I just decided I wanted to build it on my own. I could see some of the things I didn't like about it, wanted to take some of the things I did. And, that's really when I started my journey of entrepreneurship. I started a company called Lupine Creative. We are an advertising agency out of Los Angeles and New York. We do all the fun cherry pick creative parts of marketing, everything from stunt work to social campaigns to brand partnerships to merch collabs, whatever that might be, trying to find ways to get brands into culture. And then from there, it really escalated. So, I started a production company called No Sheep Studio. See what I'm doing here with all these Wolff puns. And then after that, I started another company called Do the Work. That's WeRQ. We Are Queer. It's a nonprofit for media marketing to make sure queer representation happens in the world. And then lastly, and I'm almost out of breath, I started with some clients a few years ago who were really into the sustainability space. Better cup to replace single-use plastic cups. They're made of aluminum. It's called LumiTerra, the Lumi Cup. And it's wonderful. And that has been a wild ride in these last few years, trying to figure out how to raise money and how to get things on shelves. So, I don't sleep very much, but it's been, at least I like what I do. It's a lot. Go.
You've created this road that has multiple forks for us to explore. So one thing at a time, but now my brain is reeling with possibilities of follow-up questions, but I'll start with the one that just came to mind initially, because I think that many of our listeners are women, people, humans who are thinking about at some point in time, maybe leaving their jobs to go start a company. So I'm curious, what was that impetus that told you, you know what, I'm just going to go and start something? And the follow-up question to that is, what was missing in that agency setting that you felt the need to go create your own?
That's a really good question. Well, first, I'm sure most of your intros don't take like a minute 30 for like the general question of like, what do you do? So I know how crazy I sound. When I started Lupine, there were a bunch of things that kept me kicking that initiative down the road. But really, I like building things. I used to joke early on my career, if I ever started anything, I wanted to call, look, you fucking made that. That was going to be the name of the agency. And I like kept thinking like, oh, my favorite part of this work is the doing. It's the production, the creative strategy. It's coming up with the insight. It's talking to my brand partners and clients and getting them to agree. It's the sale of new business. I just liked all of the action moments of the whole pie. And early on in the career, I jumped around to all the different departments, which is really rare. And like almost like I had, ADHD, which I do. And I just wanted to taste all the little things. And that's not normal career trajectory for folks that go into marketing. In fact, they really try to force you into a box. And that was the big thing. That was the first big moment where I was like, I don't want to just be a strategist, or I don't just want to be a producer and make digital campaign ads. Or video ads. And I don't want to just be a client person that's really good at talking to brand partners and making sure that they feel seen and heard in the work and the process of creative. I want to do all those things. How can I go to a place that it lets me do all those things? And the answer was, you can't. And so that was the beginning of really me saying, okay, if I did this, I'd do it differently. And I do think there's that phenomenon of, younger versions of people's selves when they're starting something new. They're sitting in a bar going like, well, if it was mine, I'd do it better. There was a lot of that happening. And I will tell you, if I could go back in time, I'd slap that girl because she really didn't know what she was talking about quite yet. But at least I was having the germination of ideas of, how would I do it better? What else would I would do? And, I think ignorance is important when you start something big and daunting, because I think if you knew how big and daunting it would be, you wouldn't do it in the first place. So I'm glad I had that naivete, and it was, but it is something where that I think was the first part. Just, I want a place that I can do more, and not just me. I want a place that I want to attract people that want to do more. And I don't know how to do that yet, but at that point, but I slowly started to figure it out.
I have two places I want to go, but the first one is you started your business in 2020.
Sure did.
How did that work for you?
Not well. No, it was I am very lucky to have the hindsight of that. Hindsight is 2020. I can look back on that and say how in a time of true despair, how lucky I was in so many different places in the process. But yeah, I started Lupine in February 18th of 2020. I won a major piece of business. We had set out to be an experiential company and do experiential stunts. What wasn't happening in April of 2020? Big concerts and group events. So my company went like truly hockey stick rise to hockey stick fail. And I think, I have always been the type of person that always is swinging beyond their own skill set and means. That is the type of person I am. So my failures are so much more than my successes because I'm constantly putting myself in a situation where I most likely will fail. I did that with Lupine big time, and that alone set me up for failure. But pandemic just crushed me. But at the same time, on the same side of that coin, I had just left a company that I love very much that had about 50 employees that I was in charge of all of them. And I do think, having some distance, it was much easier for me to just turn around in my living room, go, oh, that failed. And I guess now I'll be a digital campaigns and things like that, as opposed to trying to turn a ship with 50 people on it. And so there was some real benefit there for me, even in those moments of darkness, that I could just rebuild it, because to rebuild it was happening alone in my house. And that I think in the end set us up in a way that, Lupine, because of that, is a totally different agency than it probably would have been if pandemic hadn't happened. It would probably be in really heavy experiential and stunt spaces. And right now, I would say almost 50% to 60% of our work is video content and social content and partnerships, which would not have happened most likely, or at the rate of which our clients come to work with us now and be so 360 if I hadn't been shut down right at the gate of being this one specific type of agency. So yeah, it was wild. Nothing like losing your life savings in a moment of true global pandemic panic.
And I love your perspective of the ability to fail fast, in essence, only to, in essence, have ownership for yourself. So the other thing you mentioned is I have figured it out how to find people that want to do more and do good. And in today's work environment, I'm curious, how do you find those people that can really get on board and champion the vision and mission of Lupine?
The fail fast thing is right on the nose. The worst thing I think you can do as any leader is fail slow. You want to, when you see it's not working, make sure you get out or you change to diminish the casualty that happens either from a business revenue standpoint or even like positions and layoffs and things like that. You want to make sure that you fail fast. I do that with people as well. You know, I try to be as transparent as I possibly can be coming in. There's a lot of things that, you know, an LA agency that works with large entertainment clients attracts. And I tried to, one, very quickly tell everybody, if you work at Lupine or No Sheep, you are a behind the camera person. We make the things. It is okay to want to be in front of camera person, but we mostly hire those people to be in front of the cameras of which we're behind. And that is also fine. But if you really want that, you might not get that here. And we start with that kind of message. The other thing is, you know, I like the work. So sometimes I worry about scale for me because I want to be in it. And so when I'm in the work, you work directly with me, and every person that's in it needs to be passionate about it because you have to like what you do. The jobs are really fun, but they can be really hard. And so if you don't take some kind of value from it outside of your paycheck, it's going to be really hard to get up and keep doing it at the pace of which we do it. And that's just a reality. So when we start on the hiring process, I ask questions like, do you like this kind of work? Do you take joy? What's your favorite part of it? Tell me about an experience where you took real joy, where the joy didn't feel ephemeral. Why was it not ephemeral? Like, what is the thing that made it carry for you? And then you find people that just like, you know, they like it. They're a bunch of delightful weirdos that like to make the things. And, you know, and my favorite part of my entire day, every day now is after everybody leaves Lupine, I get to walk around the office and see all the absolutely bonkers banana stuff that's written on whiteboards. You know, that's the best part. It's the part that makes it feel the most real. And that's created by the weirdo brains that are floating around the office every day. You know, so I think it is important that you just transparency, tell people how hard it is, tell people how good it is, and see if they want to join. And then if they're not a good fit, remove them. And that's the best, the healthiest way to do it. It takes one to tank something. It takes 50 to build it.
I love what you just said. And recently I've adopted the phrase liberating people back into the marketplace. I feel like removing them is like, get out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's a much better term. I like that a lot. I'm going to steal that.
Please, I stole it from somebody else. I'm all about R&Ding it. Okay. But I'm really liking where you're going with this. But now you're basically liberating people back into the marketplace in not one, not two, but 3 or plus projects. So walking back a little bit, at which point in time do you decide, you know what, this is not enough for me. I'm just going to go and create something else and then something else. Do you see, is that needs-based for you, needs-based on the market? Is this vertically or horizontally integrated into the major vision that you have in your head? Like, how does it work?
So originally I set out to just do Lupine and No Sheep. No Sheep is essentially a production house that allows us to like make the content and control a lot of the creative process. So outside of coming up with the ideas and the actual skilled technicians, editors, motion graphics designers, producers, those kind of things fall under that umbrella. And that was the original plan. It was always the plan. And then, you know, you have separate companies, they do separate things, they're billed differently, etc., to set up your model. Because I do think creative services, the value of it over time, and I think this is prevalent in our industry right now, is we are consistently, collectively as an industry, devaluating the IP of the type of work we do, the creative thought. As of now, most of the work that we do, we pitch for free, which is essentially they're getting the ideas for free, and then we get a blended rate to produce them, which I think is a fundamentally flawed thing, because the value is actually the insight that's uncovered. The value is actually the big idea that then we can make, sure, or produce, but the thing that everyone talks about is the thought. So I had already set out to build these two companies that are designed to kind of future proof and talk to each other throughout the whole experience. Prior to that, though, I had started these conversations with this wonderful man named Graham Nolan, who he got connected with me in 2019 through a friend. And he was basically walking around the industry and LinkedIn and saying, hey, is anybody noticing that there's no queer organization for representation in media and marketing? I think this is flawed. How could this be? We have ad color and we have 3% for women to make sure that we have more than 3% of women in creative roles. Why don't we have something that is protecting queer folks? And when we got connected, I thought, this is brilliant. And I can't believe it doesn't already exist. And this is not my idea. And he said, I have been actively seeking like a woman partner to bring on and build it. And I blindly agreed to that in 2019. And here we are in 2020 when I wasn't already planning to start Lupine in 2020, but that also started to happen at the same time. And so really the first three companies, they were all determined by need, not need by me, but need by like an ask of something. So, one, I wanted to build my own thing. So that was an ask of me, I guess, for No Sheep and Lupine. But then, do the work kind of just happened alongside it. And then I really didn't think they would all hit. Like, you take big swings, you try to, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. I took a lot of shots. I wasn't expecting to net so many goals. And then when that happened, I just kind of wrote it out, tried to balance it as best I could. But the fourth one, LumiTerra, that came from a really wonderful conversation and a true pain point for me in experiential marketing, which is the amount of trash we make. I'm a sustainable person, but I don't compost. I'm not going to pretend that I'm more than I am, but I do know how much trash you make when you run events. And it was getting heartbreaking for me year over year to just know I had storage units full of 10 to 25,000 cups with brands on them that I would just be throwing into a landfill. And I had these wonderful clients, and they were trying to make something new in the sustainable space. And they had the idea about making a cup, and they came to me and said, help me build the marketing. And I said, no, I'll help you build the company. And here we are now, the five of us. We're just about to close our Series A. It's wonderful. But yeah, it's a thing like that. So it's like, did I set out to be like, hi ho, it's off to work we go, let's go 4 companies? No, I didn't do that. That's crazy. That's what crazy people do. Even crazier people just keep saying yes and then all of a sudden they wake up and it's 2025 and they're logging hours, but they at least like it,
I'm cracking up because now the only visual that I will have in my head is the 7 dwarves going to mine for diamonds in some obscure cave.
Yep.
So I think we need to start doing a study on how many queer people start businesses around sustainability specifically to drinking, because there is bottled water, there is cups, there are straws, I feel like we just went to a women's conference and Christy and I have met a few sustainability prone businesses that were all queer driven. So that's absolutely awesome that we all care for the planet.
Yeah, there actually is a direct correlation between queer folks and sustainability in the market space. It has to do with trying to take care of something, which is really interesting. I wrote early days when I was talking to somebody, we uncovered that stat that there's a direct correlation. I will have to find it, but the thing you're seeing that feels true, it is true.
Yeah. Perception is reality. But I feel like it needs some data behind it. This is where all of you listening to us who are data analysts and you have hours to waste on data that we could use in our businesses, please toss it over to us, because I think that there is some really cool numbers that could be drawn from that study.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. So speaking about LGBTQ+, what do you see right now in the marketplace in terms of visibility, and how has it progressed since you've started your mission?
Oh, it's rough to be queer out there. 2025 is
Tell me
a
about
brutal year. Yeah. So do the work. The first thing we did when we started it was we looked around and said, oh shit, there's no benchmarks. The last time we did the last time we did a census at all when we started it before 2020 was 2008. That was during a time where you couldn't even federally get married. It wasn't until 2021 in June that we became a protected class. So there was no data on queer people because we weren't protected at all. Why would you ever tell the government that you identify as LGBTQIA if your boss then can easily fire you for just being yourself? So we started knowing that problem and said, okay, how can we address that first? And then we set out and did a bunch of different research surveys with Disco, wonderful company. We run those quarterly, where we look at both the materials of internal working within media and advertising, like how many ERGs, BRGs are set up. Do you have protections in your companies? And then also of the things we make. How many queer people are actually in ads? How many queer storylines are being told in ads? How many partnerships are happening outside the month of June? I know this is breaking news, but I am gay in December. Crazy. I know. It's not just June 1st to the 30th, and it is far beyond, very reaching. But we just, we saw this world and we said, okay, we can really start to survey it in the right way. And then we can set up programming. We run this thing with Alan Brown called Project Violet. It is a wonderful mentor program for queer people all around the country. You get paired up with other queer people in marketing and advertising. You live and breathe in your Slack channels. You talk to each other. You meet up. You look at each other's work. It is wonderful. Didn't exist before. Like an ERG and BRG plan. The problem with those they're run by the individual. When the individual leaves, then the whole thing has to either start or restart. And the whole process is really driven by how, driven the individual, the queer person inside your company is. That's not how that should be. It should be run by the company and then give it all the tools, because that's what that is. It's not a club. So we broke down some of those structures and put together toolkits, et cetera. And we're just about to roll out something really exciting that we've been working on for 2 years. It's a much bigger survey. And I can't get into all of that because it happens in the next couple months, but it is very exciting, where we'll have some real benchmarks and a very giant sample size to prove some of the protective clauses aren't really protecting us in 2025, and to kind of give, light against the population of, how many ads are we seeing with queer folks in them versus how many queer folks there are in the world, and making sure that is, reflective of one another, as opposed to just having really wonderful but white-based marketing, which we call mass marketing. Yeah, Do the Work is wonderful. It's a collective of really vibrant, fabulous, crazy, creative, smart, driven, kind people. I don't know if I answered your question directly, but kind of what we're doing, making gay stuff.
I love it. I love all the gay stuff. I was just curious and I know that since you've started, things have changed dramatically. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
But like, how is it affecting people today? And I'll give you an example. I spoke with a company that's very heavily LGBTQ plus focused in terms of unisex clothing. Not going to mention the brand, but you can.
Is it Tomboy X? I love them.
No, it's Dapper Boy. So I did mention that they're fucking awesome. I have been following their brand and their clothing for a very long time because it's high quality and they really, it's truly unisex for women and men and trans folks that do not have, and non-binary folks that do not have the typical female or male body.
Yep.
Amazing brand. What I've seen in terms of marketing in a lot of those like queer oriented brands is that it is very socially driven, and from this is who we are, this is who we serve, but it's missing a lot of the typical financial and strategic component that we see in a lot of similar regular businesses, meaning they focus less on the social and focus more on returns and numbers and a bunch of different things that attract investors. And so speaking of investment, if women are getting less than 2.5% of all of the equity-based financing that there is available through VCs and angels, I'm not sure what the data is for queer-based businesses, but it's got to be way below that.
It is. It's actually, it's not met at all by the population rate. It's like right now, queer folks have been under attack. There's been more legislation in the last year and a half than there have if you combined all the decades before, which is crazy. That started in 2023, really 2024, and now 2025, where, all of these huge steps forward, things like 2021 becoming a protected class, the right to marry in 2015, all of these huge court cases are being essentially under attack, and they're slowly trying to roll back those protections. And they're not slowly, they are rolling back those protections. In terms of data, the thing that gives me hope is younger people are queer than ever. There's 23 to almost 33%, depending how low you go into alpha and how high you go up into millennial in terms of percentage of people identifying as queer. I like to think of it as think of Florida, great state. Am I right? Think of Florida as, you have DeSantis. He is a lifeguard with a microphone. He is yelling loud on the beach and everybody can hear him because he controls the volume. But the reality is youth is the tsunami. So it's going to happen either way. I just wish it would happen faster. And we would mitigate some of the serious damage that's happening to queer people right now. The Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney thing, if you consider that was a single post for an offshoot regional campaign that blew up in the internet. I mean, Kid Rock actually blowing up a case of Bud Light is a stunt to just make more noise about pushing people down. It is an insane thing to think about. When we talk at Do the Work, we give advice on how to combat backlash, because it needs to be part of your marketing funnel now. If you're doing anything for queer folks, you need to have backlash as your plan, not a plan. It should be just assumed. So we help with that quite a bit. We actually run seminars, put you right in the hot seat, which is really fun. We've done that with this company called Pomplio. It's by a Social Element, another agency that we work with sometimes. They've been wonderful with Do the Work. Tamara Littleton is the founder of that. She's brilliant. And, the idea is not having a plan when you are supporting any marginalized community in this climate and culture is negligent. So show up as if you're going to show up, you show up as your full self and you get ready to stand on the line, because we're on that line whether you want it, whether you are or not. So we ask brands to just hold it the best they can, and we teach them how to do that at Do the Work, which is also important. And it's free consult. Call us. We're here. I think about just one other thing, which is younger people are 2x, I think it's 5x from the Edelman report, 5x more likely to work for a brand that they think demonstrates their values. And so when you think about future-proofing your company, you want to grow your CEO from the inside. Make sure you're setting yourself up for that future, because otherwise you're not going to have the talent that understands your brand and market to step into leadership at the time frame you want them, because they're millennials right now. They're millennials and they will be Gen Z. So you should be focused on that. Make sure that you have the right talent. And queer people are the most creative subset in the world. We've been making culture since day one. Black, trans, femme, making culture. Everything we do now, they invented in the 80s. Here we are. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
Based on that comment, I'm curious where you see that culture shifting in the future. If this culture if you kind of want to just take that timeline, it started in the 80s, but it's present today, where do you see it going in the future?
I think youth makes new things. I think the one thing that I worry about with digital, because I do love digital and AI and all these things, I worry about our imagination. I think everything's a tool and we learn how to paint. It used to be canvases. It was walls, then it was canvases, then it was, screens and whatever that might be. But humans know how to paint. And creative people and young people, they use their imagination to see something different and then make it so. In the 80s, think of voguing, think of, basically ballroom culture. That is the culture that you're seeing right now with Lady Gaga on stage and Beyonce. You are seeing that culture with Chapel Roan, your drag queen's favorite drag queen vibes. The terminology that youth use consistently often comes from marginalized queer spaces from before, and then they get adopted. There's always like a 10-year lag. It's bad when like Snickers is saying, "Y'all slay, boots the house down." It's like, oh God, we're past, we've gone full circle. But I don't know exactly what it will look like in 10 years, but I imagine it's happening right now in Alpha and Gen Z. And I think some shows are touching on it in a really interesting way. But I will say, this is the first time I'm seeing so much nostalgia, faux-stalgia in youth culture and in new things that are designed to feel like what I wore in high school is back. That time frame for fashion seems too short. And I think that has a lot to do with digital. And I'm worried about the imagination, the ability to make something new when you're inundated with so much stuff. And that's something I do think about. Again, I don't know if I answered that question directly, but it is something that's like, if you're inundated all day with screens and messages, it's hard to give space where you have nothing happen in your brain to make something that wasn't there before. So I'm interested to see where culture will go outside of basements and communities,
And closets.
And closets. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I want to shift it a little bit because I feel that you have 3 businesses that kind of connect. And then you created LumiCup, which is a completely different type of venture. So I'm curious, how did your brand building skills translate or not when it comes to launching a physical product?
Oh, so key. I got to tell you, that's the thing that's helped us tremendously. The number one thing that contributes to burn rate outside of personnel, like the people in any company, is marketing. And the other part that is hard for all marketers is that marketing feels sometimes subjective and founders get in their way. It's the number one cause for increased burn rate and not a well thought out strategy for your audiences and how to achieve them. It is one of the biggest contributors outside of just founder behavior that contributes to startup failure. So I know that because I have failed many times and I have been a founder and I do marketing and all those things. So starting Lumi was really interesting because I knew what I wanted to make. I have 4 other partners in this world. They knew what they wanted to make. We all put our heads together and said, how do we make it for the most? Not each one of the things we want to make it for, but how do we make it for the most? Who's our desired audience? How do we design a brand for those key stakeholders first that then can translate into being culturally famous? And that is really hard to do. It also, if you have the ability to lay things out visually, information, not necessarily like infographics, but take something that seems a little bit complicated or mission oriented and make it visually pleasing, it gives you such a leg up. And I wasn't calling my, cousin's, uncle's, dog worker's nephew who knows how to build websites. I had Lupine. So it was a thing where I said, hey guys, let's do an exercise. I'm the founder, so I'm going to step out for a second and you tell me what this brand looks like for you, because I know what it looks like for me and I want to see what you think it looks like for you. And that's how we kind of went back and forth till we found our look and feel, because I do think, I know how to fail fast, and failing fast is being an audience of one in a vacuum. So I tried to open it up as much as I could. But it does help. I mean, like all the way down from making our sales presentations to our VC decks, to our website, to the renders of our cups, to, I'll tell you what's really hard, selling cups when you don't have cups. But you can do it if you have renders of them, So it really did make a huge difference. So much so that I've actually built a model at Lupine. I call it widget work. We were doing this for companies when things were slow. When anything's slow, if you have a new company, let's say it's a nonprofit, it has a for good element to it. It's nonprofit, sustainable oriented. It is, you are from a marginalized community trying to make something work. You are addressing a marginalized community in some fashion. We will do your brand ID, positioning, strategy, and go to market for you at a very, very low price because one, it makes the people that work at Lupine happy. Like it's great widget work. It's fun to make something from nothing and truly show somebody their passion come to life, So we built this process up. And now after doing my Series A and understanding how to bring something to market and doing seed rounds, I think that there's a market for family fund offices where you set up your offering, and your offering is very similar. Maybe it doesn't have a for good element, but we say, hey fund, put Lupine on retainer, and instead of letting your investment go to the neighbor's nephew's dog walker's son's cousin that can do websites, just donate some of our hours alongside your investment, and we'll take care of the company and put it on its best foot. And I think there's something there, and I'm trying to get that piece to market because I do think it would help startups quite a bit if they had just the access the way Lupine and Lumi work so well together. It gives you such a leg up. Like I know how to market something. I know how to make it visually beautiful. I know how to change the messaging. I know how to make it actionable. Getting the A team at the beginning of the race.
Because I've been there. I know that Series A's can shift that founder's relationship with control.
Sure can.
Ownership, and sometimes identity, right? So what's the hardest adjustment for you around that?
The hardest thing about doing a Series A in a trade war is being an aluminum cup company. That's one. I will say I was not, like pandemic, was not prepared on timing to be in a full-blown trade war while trying to raise money for a company of which we make cups all over the world. But in the process of a Series A, it was really nice to feel the validation of people really actually, when it's inked, when they get on board for real. I think that was really a wonderful and self-actualizing thing. It also, a Series A will teach you about the true art of compromise, which means nobody is really happy. And you get what you need and you make sure that you maintain as much as you can, and not just in equity, but just like of the things you really need to have happen. You need to have that in your gut already laid out. Here are my limits. Here are my spaces that I am willing to compromise. Here are places that I am not. And then find partners to ebb and flow with you to get to the right space. That is very hard. As somebody that owns almost everything that I do outright, working with people where you don't have full autonomy to just make those choices, and then bringing on more people that will even add more or less autonomy to making those choices. It is something that you need to be honest with yourself, like truly honest about what you want out of the equation before you get in those rooms. Because if you are unprepared for that, it could be heartbreaking, or could feel punitive, or could feel malicious, or could feel uneducated, or whatever that might be. And you will always, as founders, have a retort back of why something is of value. You just have to be prepared to lose battles, win wars. That's something I had to learn, definitely. Your poor ego, get ready.
I appreciate the honesty and transparency and just the way you positioned that hopefully listeners that are potentially in a funding or perceive that as the way they want to go, just really staying true to yourself and also knowing when enough is enough and when you're willing to also give up and pivot for the greater good, right?
Yep. And also I would say the number one qualification for doing any of this shit at all is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. That is why you make either the most money or you make the thing. It's because you also need to sit in the bad consistently and be okay with that. I think that's missed a lot. Like, and I mean the bad from anywhere of forecasting and knowing you're going to take people's rent away and you just got to do it. Somebody's underperforming and it's hurting the other team members, but you love them. You got to do it. Like thinking you are worth this thing and then somebody telling you that you are not. You got to do it. Asking somebody for something and then them not responding for weeks. You have to sit with it. It is the hardest part of the thing, and it is why the payoff is highest for the person that needs to sit with it. And it is the intangible thing that I think people miss is like, get comfortable in being uncomfortable. It's the definition of being a leader. Like, just got to sit with it.
Mic drop on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really thought about it that way, but I do think it's a thing. I think it's a thing that people miss really fast. It's kind of like work-life balance. When people ask me about that, it's like, what is that?
What is that?
Oh, I think two of the words in that sentence are fundamentally wrong, and they're predicated on a system that has told you one is good and the other is bad. So no, let's just talk about balance. And you should be balancing the things that give you joy. So if something is no longer serving you and it feels like labor and it has no joy out of it, sure, you can classify that as work. But until then, because that's what the system classifies as bad, it's just things. It's just stuff you're doing, right? I think I get asked that a lot on panels. Like, you seem to work a lot. It's like, yeah, no. Do I sound like I work a lot? It's like, yeah, I'm logging in 80 to 100. Always have. And I like it and it's fun. And I have a great life partner who also locks in the 80 to 100. We got 2 fur babies. They're wonderful. And like, we like fancy fucking dinners and date nights. And we like sitting in cafes on Saturdays and slamming through inboxes. Like, it's, we like it. It's not for everyone.
It's your joy. It's your joy.
Yeah. Don't yuck my yum. Like, it is. It is, and it's hard. It's hard work. And I do feel like we are in this age right now of really, I would say, driven in terms of aspirational young people saying, I want to start selling. I'm going to own this thing. I'm going to do this. And I say yes, and to all those things. But first and most important, figure out where your money is. If you don't know where you're getting your revenue, you don't have a company. Full stop. 2, get ready to work. You will work so much harder than you ever thought was going to be a lot. You will lose sleep because you'll be essentially working in your sleep. Like, the amount of nights in early days where I am still mulling something over while trying to get rest is, and like, that is like, you are in one arena and another, like one world, in world and out. It's crazy. And like, you live off adrenaline. And if you're me, Nespresso coffee, and like, you have to like it and be fully in it because it will try to break you. And it's wonderful when it doesn't. It is indescribable when you get to walk around and see all the whiteboards and all the creative shit and know you weren't in that room and you're still a part of it. It is a wonderful self-actualizing experience, but it came with blood, sweat, tears, mental breakdowns, big bets, losing massive amount of money, staying up, missing the vacation, leaving the dinner. Like, it came with all those things, and that's okay. But like, that's what it takes. And for those that have done it another way, I think you get diminished returns on the joy if you're not working your ass off to get there.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate you just bringing that reality up, especially. Not that I'm trying to target the younger generation, but they just come in and they think, oh, I can do that and I can do it better. And it's going to take me nothing to get it going. And that's not the reality. If you want to be a leader and successful and really create the impact you're looking for, it's going to take time and energy, period. End of story.
Yeah. It's the amount of I work in a young industry, and I love young people. Don't get me wrong; they are wonderful. They bring a different level of energy and understanding. But I do see and have felt for some time. It's like, oh, I'm going to have your job in 5 years, and I'm like, if you have my job in 5 years, you are a fucking rock star. Go get it. Like, let's go. Put in the time. But like, it took me 20 plus years to get here, and I worked so hard, and I knew I wanted it. That's the other part. Like I didn't just wake up one day. I planned it. And you plan. Also, the other thing is like make a plan, have a plan, know where your money's coming from, know how to get it, know how deep that revenue pool is, how many potential clients you have, before you start anything, and then make sure you are keeping up with that. The hardest part I think about Lupine, actually not think about, I definitively know, is getting fed. You are constantly looking to be fed while you're feeding others. The hardest part is trying to figure out where that next project is coming from. And if you don't have diversified revenue, you can be a team of one and maybe be a freelancer or a consultant, but it is impossible to build something if it's so volatile. And this industry is really volatile. So just having eyes open and like pushing yourself and making sure that you know where that's coming from, and constantly going to the dinners and taking the network meetings and talking to people, like that's work, and it is draining, but it's mandatory. Or get somebody that's wonderful at it and bring them in as a partner, because even if they're not the IP, they are the lifeblood of the company. The revenue is the lifeblood of the company. So it needs to be seriously valued. I do think sometimes social media does a disservice, even in the classic statement. I think it does a disservice though in LinkedIn. And I try really, like when people are like, wow, you're really crushing it. I'm like, yeah, but I haven't slept in like a week. Like, oh, like, yeah. Like, and it's not self-deprecating as much as it's like just being honest. It's like, yeah, we're doing great on this one thing, and this other thing is kind of failing fast. And I think people need to talk about that more, like in general, because otherwise I think you give off a younger generation of like entrepreneurship is easy. Being a creator is simple. And maybe doing it once or twice, but sustaining it is so hard. It's the hardest part. People don't talk about that enough.
We could go into so many ends,
yeah,
till infinity and beyond, I feel. Yeah. Kate, it's been incredible. Like this was a badass episode, and I can't wait till we air it, because there are so many things that you said that are going to resonate deeply with many of our listeners. I know they did with us, because Christy and I, very similarly to you, we never stop. I mean, it's constant. And even when we stop, there's always a text here or an email there, or something happening to where, there's going to be a connection to talk about the business, right? Or the businesses, because like you, we have multiples that are integrated. I feel like we're all overachievers, and we need to exchange notes on which Nespresso pods you like best, because I'm curious.
Oh, I'm the vanilla. I'm a vanilla girl all day. I know it's so gross, but I don't care. And I drink it straight, just black espresso, and sometimes a Coca-Cola. I'm that girl. It's like, boom, sugar and. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't do the Coke, but I do in any way, shape, or form, by the way. But
yeah.
But I'm a Milozio all the way. I don't like the flavored coffees.
It's not flavored like that. It's just like
I know the hint. Yeah,
the hint, the in the beans or whatever it might be. I don't know why I like it. It's just drinkable.
You don't have to justify yourself. You do you. I'm all about like, you know what you want and you know what you like. Just go for it. Anyways, it's been amazing, and we wish you all the best with everything that you do, because you're changing the world, one of your companies at a time, I guess.
Well, thank you. This was wonderful. I always love talking to smart, like driven people just trying to make stuff. Congrats to both of you. You've made something wonderful here. So
thank you.
Thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And everybody else out there, stay freaking badass. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did recording it. If you like our show, please rate us, drop us a review on your favorite streaming app, and we'll catch you on the next episode. This was the Badass Women in Business podcast by Christy and Agnes.